Everyone. This is Nithin Ramachandra from the NR Media NR Hour Sports Show, back with another episode alongside with one of our co-hosts, Jeremy Fishman. Go check him out. He does some great stuff for us, and he has his own thing. He's getting ready for college, University of Tampa. So go follow him on Instagram. Fans, you already know we are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, on all the podcast platforms, and everybody knows about my Spreaker app on my phone, and the fans can tune in there, ask questions as usual for every guest that we have on the show. And today we have a great guest, special episode today. We have a Super Bowl champion on the show. His name is Jarrett Bush. He's a former NFL cornerback. He played in the CFL also, but he was undrafted free agent. He signed with the Carolina Panthers, but he got his the bulk of his career was with the Green Bay Packers. He spent like over 12 years with the Green Bay Packers to 06 to 14, won the Super Bowl there. And then after that, he went to the CFL. So we'll get to all his journey, career, best moments, how he got into football, winning the Super Bowl and playing for the Green Bay Packers. And we'll get his thoughts on this year's playoffs so far and what he has and what's his Super Bowl prediction. So Jarrett, I just want to say thank you for joining the show. This is a long time coming. We finally made it happen. And first of all, how are you and your family doing? And welcome to our family and welcome to the show. And the fans are they can't wait to learn more about your story.
Oh yeah, it was my pleasure being on, Nathan and Jeremy. Appreciate you. The family is good, man. My family's healthy, and it's definitely a blessing to share my knowledge and experiences and my journey with the fans.
Yeah. So Jeremy, want to lead it off?
Yeah, thanks. And Jarrett, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it a lot. I want to ask you about your football journey. So, can you take us through the time you started playing football all the way up throughout your career?
Yeah, so I started up in middle school. I played some playground football, through middle school, high school. That's really where I started gaining some traction, through the ranks of the high school, becoming, playing as a sophomore, junior, senior, and then having some ambition going to college and realizing, what I really had and believing in myself and knowing that I could take this pretty far. I also had another passion for track and field as well. I felt like complemented my football game as well as my ambition, just to want to strive for excellence in not only sports but academics and setting my future up using those two vehicles to go to college, to get college paid for. I think one of the biggest things growing up was realizing my dad and educating me on, just the types of the financial responsibilities of college and understanding, that we weren't rich, growing up. And so understanding that, okay, like there's ways to do it. My dad went the military route to help his school get paid for, and I did the athletics. And so my brother, he went to the military. He's a doctor now, but went the military route. And so that's how we found our way. And through college, I wanted to set myself up some more and give myself a great head start, and got a great shot at the opportunity of being undrafted to the Carolina Panthers, with a lot of support and dedication around me, and the people around me allowed me to get the opportunity. During training camp, unfortunately, I got cut there, got placed on waivers, came up to Green Bay. They were 4-12 when I got here, and we ended up winning a Super Bowl in 2010. So from being undrafted 2006, 2010, 4-12 to a Super Bowl championship, not too bad. So it was a blessing to be a part of something that I helped build up to, and very fortunate for the people around me as well to put me in that position, that believed in me, held me accountable, and allowed me to thrive in the positions that I was able to be in.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, speaking of military backgrounds, first of all, thank them for their service. Obviously, tough thing to do, serving the country. And You come from a military background, just like Nolan Carroll. He was on the show last week, and his father and mother were also in the military. And talk about uh your family. How important? Obviously, family is big in the sports industry for athletes, and also talk about your family. For them to be to support you from day one of playing football. Talk about your impact your family has made for you in your career.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just start from the household inside the home, the way a military house is ran.
Yeah.
Uh, it's very cut and dry. Like, you shall obey or get out of the way. Like, make your bed or you don't get the benefits of listening to your authority figure, right? Your parents. And so it starts from there. And from there, it trickulates to other things, to your school and listen to the teachers. Okay, listen to your teachers. Guess what? When you come home, guess what? There's no sports. There's no going outside to play. It was very cut and dry. And it's either, you kind of get on board or you're going to sit in the room and you're going to eventually you're going to come around, because as a kid, you definitely want to get out there and play and do some things that you love to do. And so the law of the law of the land's there for you. Do this and you shall get this. If you don't do this, you don't get this. Yeah, and that's the mentality it is. And like it or not, that's the way the world works too as well. You pay your mortgage, guess what? You get to keep your house. You work hard, guess what? Someone's gonna pay you a salary. If you work extra hard, guess what? You get compensated, bonus compensation. And right, you listen to your boss, guess what? You're gonna continue to have a job. And so I think a lot of times, it definitely suited me well. There was definitely some struggle points of a power struggle within the house, because as a young male, as myself, right, we test the boundaries. I can't lie about that, and I did. But my dad definitely was a strong father figure, and having that military background definitely kept me in line. And so I'm very thankful for that discipline, as well as that authority figure, because it allowed me to understand my parameters, and once I understood those parameters, I knew I could thrive and be safe in those parameters as a young male, especially going out into the real world today, understanding that there's laws, there are things that, there's regulations, there's statutes that you need to abide by. And so, but like I said, it starts within inside the home first. And so I think that's how that military background definitely played a huge role for myself as a young male.
Wow.
I'm currently a high school athlete, and recently I wasn't sure if I wanted to play my senior year baseball season. Then all of a sudden one day it just kind of clicked, and I was like, I've played this sport my whole life. I can't just stop now, give it one last ride. So I want to ask you, has there ever been a moment in your career where you thought about giving up or stopping your journey and found any strength to keep going?
Yeah. Can't tell you. There's a lot of times. I mean, there's a few times just off the cuff. There was a time. So short story. So I was a junior, track and field. I was #1 seed heading into the subsection. So it goes conference, subsection, section, state. You win conference, you go to subsection. You win subsection, top 3 go to subsection, go to section. Top 3 in section, go to state. So this is a subsection meet. #1 seed going in. Fastest time by at least half a second. Feeling good, feeling confident. We can line up in the blocks. The gunman says, runners to your marks, set. Pow, gun goes off. I clip the first hurdle. Head over heels, I crash.
Wow.
The rest of the flight opponents and the athletes, they finished the race. Still didn't come close to my personal record at all. So I get up, ego's already bruised, and I finished the race. I stayed on the track because that's what I was taught. Finish the race, finish what you start. And after that race, I was just devastated because in so many ways, I kind of just tore myself down and just felt like I was just a loser. Just I couldn't do it. I choked, whatever, all that. You could say that, I was just belittling myself. No one else was doing it to my, but me. And, it was a long drive home that day. And, slowly I had to kind of get back on my horse and be like, you know what, that was just a fluke ride, and over time, with a lot of support, right? My dad was a big supporter, my mom, as well as your coaches. And that next season, senior season, go on, win the conference. My senior season, win the conference, win the subsection, win the section, top 5 in state. So my biggest advice to you is that it's not always going to be glitz and glamour. It's not always going to be pretty. What I can tell you that it's going to be so much sweeter if you stick to it. And if you stick to it, even in the dark times, when the light times do come, that, my gosh, was so worth it. It's so worth it. It doesn't seem worth it at the time. It's like, it's just so easy. Let me just stop, man. This is such a bad time because I'm not playing well. My coaches don't like me, this and that, But I will say that, man, stick to this and be determined to prove yourself right that you are the guy. Go do it, man, because I think there's a lot more benefit than not.
Thank you, and I'm excited for the season, so I'm ready.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
it's
so
awesome.
before we go any further, fans, please tune in on this Speaker app. You can put your questions in there, and if we have time, we'll answer some of your questions on the Speaker app. And we're joined by Super Bowl champion Jarrett Bush. So Jarrett, talk about your high school career, because you played defensive back and also wide receiver. In my opinion, you had one of the underrated ball skills in the league, and you got the big interception during the Super Bowl. But talk about your ball skills when it comes to playing wide receiver and defensive back, because I feel like that's a seamless transition for defensive back or receiver, because you already know what's going to happen. But talk about your transition and what was it like, because Travion Diggs from the Cowboys can relate to you too.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a power struggle as well, and a growing some growing pains as well, because when I grew up a Jerry Rice fan, Michael Irvin, and it was the glory position, right? You catch touchdowns, you do your dance, everybody knows your name. And then my defensive backs coach was like, JB, you're gonna play cornerback. I'm like, wait a minute. This whole time in my mind, I'm like, man, I know who I am, Jarrett Bush, I play receiver, and all of a sudden, like that, he's trying to flip my identity. So, of course, you're gonna resist, right? You're like, man, what are you talking about, coach? Like, man, I'm a receiver. Like, I catch touchdowns, And then he broke it down to me like this. He was like, listen, walked into my office. I walked in his office. He was like, listen, when recruiters come and you're 6'1", they want to see a 6'5", 6'4" receiver. I'm like, all right, fine. I feel like I'm still blazing fast. But when they see a 6'1", 6-foot corner, they're looking at their chops, And so he broke it down to me like that. I was like, wow. I was like, okay. So already I passed the eye test. And so when he broke it down to me, like, and he realized some of my goals and some of my aspirations in college football as well as track, it definitely made a good, compelling argument to go ahead and make that switch. And I already knew the offensive side of the ball. I already knew some of the offensive formations. And so I could just bring that part of my game to the defensive side. And I wanted to win. I wanted to win as a team, and I wanted to win as an individual, to go on and play college ball. So that gave me the best shot. Of course, I bought in. And so once I process all of that information, I continue to make that switch.
Wow.
Nathan kind of mentioned it before. You had the big interception in the Super Bowl. Why don't you tell us about that moment and how that's kind of affected you positively, I guess, since then?
Yeah. You know, um, in a sense of, I think it just taught me that no matter where you're at in life, I think there are going to be people who are going to put you in the right position to thrive. It's up to you. It's up to you to realize in the position that you're in to go make a play. Just because if you're the dime, the nickel, the safety, the D lineman, the nose tackle, the end, the linebacker, the safety, doesn't matter. If someone puts you in a position to make a play, first, realize where you're at. Second, figure out how can you contribute, whether it's to the community, whether it's to your team, whether it's to your business, whether it's to your family, and appreciate that blessing because you're being allowed an opportunity to make a play. And not only do I take that aspect and impact that I made in that interception in the Super Bowl, I take that in other areas of my life as well. Now opening up my first business, which is a hair salon here in Green Bay.
Yeah, so talk about how tough was it? Obviously, it's a business where talk about how tough is it for you not to get drafted from Utah State and but you signed as a free agent with the Carolina Panthers, but you got your opportunity with the Green Bay Packers. They brought you in and you got to showcase your talent from Utah State. But talk about that transition from college, and talk about the experience at Utah State also. But let's talk about not getting drafted, but you got your opportunity with the Green Bay Packers, and it worked out well for you.
Yeah, yeah. So I think to answer your question, Nathan, I think I gotta go back to why I went to Utah State. The whole purpose of going to Utah State was because I wanted to run track and play football. I think if I was just trying to pave the way for football, I could have went to a bigger school. I could have went to USC or Texas A&M, a Cal. But that's not at that time. As a 17-year-old, 18-year-old young man, I wanted to do both, right? You got to think you had Dion that was paving the way. You had JJ Stokes who ran the 1-turn hurdles that I saw ran in college as well. You had other athletes. Bo Jackson ran track, you know what I'm saying, that were just at leaving their sport, you know what I'm saying? And so that's who I wanted to emulate. That's who I wanted to follow. And I felt like if they could do it, so can this guy, And so when Utah State gave me that chance, I was like, okay, I'm on my way. So it gave me a lot of hope knowing that I could still play professional football. As long as I'm going to a Division I school, I feel like I always had a shot.
Yeah.
So now realizing that, understanding that the level of Division I ultimately didn't matter, if you go to a USC, a Clemson, a Texas, or Utah State, definitely does matter. However, I think that's the way it all aligned for me personally, for it to happen, because who knows if I went to USC, I could have got hurt, could have, went a different path, who knows? So I think that's just the path for me. Being undrafted, again, I think that all happened for a reason. I think, who knows if I'm drafted in the second round, third round, maybe I've just been too arrogant. Maybe I needed to be undrafted. You know what I'm saying? To walk with a chip on my shoulder. You know what I'm saying? To prove week in, week out that this underdog was determined to make it. You know what I'm saying? Just because I wasn't drafted doesn't mean that I'm not worthy. Just because I wasn't drafted doesn't mean that I'm a lesser man than you. It just means that I was undrafted. And so I definitely carry that a lot with me. And a lot of people, a lot of people, they get offended by my confidence a lot of times because I feel like I do walk with that chip on my shoulder because I was undrafted and I got something to prove a lot of times. And I get it. Haters are going to hate, but that's how I made my success, was through the back door. And so I think a lot of people sometimes, again, they get offended by my confidence, but I mean, at the same time, it's been proven. You got Jamal Williams, Sam Shields, Rod Smith. There's so many undrafted players that made a household name for themselves. And yeah, when the chips aren't going against you, you still got to rise to the occasion like they are. And so I think that really taught me a huge valuable lesson in life. Is one, you gotta outwork people. 2, you gotta believe in yourself. 3, you gotta dedicate yourself more than other people. You know what I'm saying? With those three things, I think you can rise out of a lot of situations that sometimes go against you. And I think that's just been the story of my life. Sometimes things you're gonna get some mediocre hands in life.
Yeah.
Question is, what are you gonna do with it? How are you gonna respond to it? Are you gonna sit there and sulk about it, or are you gonna do something about it? So those are, I think those, Nathan, I think to answer your question, I'm very thankful those things happened to me because I don't think I'd be as strong as a man as you see me today. You know what I'm saying? Or resilient. I think that breeds resilience. You know what I'm saying? The way I came up and rose to the top. I think some people need that. Yep. Some people are blessed to, be a first round, second round, third round draft pick. That's their path. But I think from my story, for Jarrett's story, that's the way it was supposed to happen.
Yeah, and that's a great story there. And I have a follow-up to that because once you got the opportunity with the Green Bay Packers, you got Green Bay Packers is one of the most well-run organizations, in my opinion. You played for Coach Mike McCarthy most of your career, who's with Dallas now. You got to play with Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, with the Jets now. But you had some key players throughout your years with Green Bay. Like, for example, you had Jermichael Finley, you had Michael Montgomery, you had all these great players there. So talk about your experience with Green Bay and also winning the Super Bowl in 2010 against the Pittsburgh Steelers and capping off with your interceptions, what Jeremy mentioned, and then winning as a group, as a team that year too.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, being undrafted and being in a pool of guys like that really does sharpen you. It makes you a better man, makes you a better football player, and realizing how much more work you need to do. I can definitely say, like, when I stepped onto that pitch with the Green Bay Packers, that I was an unpolished product.
Yeah.
However, once you step onto that pitch, you realize you gotta get your sandpaper.
Yeah.
You gotta get your sandblaster because you got some polishing to do, sir. You got polishing to do. You got some, and at the same time, you can get your polisher spray out too. Because at the same time as you're smoothing out some of the rough patches of yourself, there are some areas that you're at the point where you can polish up too. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the hard part, is always searching for areas of your game, whether it be on the field or off the field, places where you can polish yourself up. And you can only do that unless you're in a pool full of people that are other sharper irons than you. Very fortunate to be around the Al Harris, the Charles Woodson, the Brett Favre, the Aaron Rodgers, the Chad Cliftons, the Amon Greens. I can go down the list, the Aaron Campmans, the Nick Barnett's, the AJ Hawks, the Clay Matthews, the BJ Raji's. Listen, I can keep going on and on and on. And that's who you're sharpening your iron with. And, I think a lot of times when you transition from that too, when you transition out of the NFL, it becomes a little bit more difficult because you're not always around those other irons. So I think it's your responsibility too, when you transition out of the NFL, which is sometimes difficult for guys, is to continue to keep yourself around those guys, other irons to sharpen yourself. You know what I'm saying? but yeah, very blessed, very, very fortunate to be around a group of guys that Ted Thompson brought in, and to achieve a Super Bowl together. Ultimately, credit to the coaching staff getting us to buy in to their philosophy, us trusting them and them trusting us to go out there and play with their hair on fire, to bring home a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Just before we got on the topic of college football, and currently there's a lot of controversy in the NCAA among the portal and NIL. Can we get your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts. There's a lot of variables, Jeremy. I'm not sure if we have enough time to talk about everything, but I will say this. I think the NIL money is good. I think the transfer portal, I'm not sure if that's for the benefit or for the worse. And my reasoning is because, one, there's no commitment.
Yeah.
No, there's no real commitment. Because once you sign on, it's not signed in blood. It's not there. There's you sign it, but there's an asterisk by it. It's a conditional commitment. I'm not sure what you're teaching young men and women when you sign a contract doing that. You know what I'm saying? In your mind, they're like, okay, if it's conditional and I'm not happy here, I can just shift on. Well, how many times are they going to do that later down in life because they continue that same mindset with basically a half-baked commitment? And so, like I said, like, oh, things go bad, oh, I can just transfer, at the same time, I can see some benefits too. Like if the coaching staff, promised that he was going to be there 3 years at a 5, and all of a sudden he leaves the next year, you can find out, you can go with that coach, or you can find another opportunity. So I see both sides of it. I just hope, I just feel like some players may get lost within the system, within the transfer portal. And then, like, how do you follow a kid? If you're trying to go to the professional ranks, how do you get consistency? Whether it's academically or from a athletic standpoint, or even like a strength conditioning, or from a philosophical standpoint, or stability. Just knowing that where you're going to be. You said, man, every 4 years you have the ability to transfer. Every year you have the ability to step into the transfer portal. I think the biggest thing as a father, from a father standpoint, I definitely want some stability for my child when they go to college, because I want them to graduate. So for them to graduate, I feel like they need some type of stability. So I'll say that.
Yeah, we have a couple of fan questions for you. They want to know some of your best moments. One of our fans wants to know some of your best moments at Utah State.
Great question. Best moments at Utah State was probably playing. I got three. Playing the University of Alabama. It's scary and exciting at the same time. Playing University of Clemson. That was pretty. It wasn't as scary as Bama. I mean, 90,000 screaming fans in Bama was pretty intimidating, but it was a lot of fun. And then playing University of Hawaii was awesome, just completely awesome. We got to see Pearl Harbor, that historical monument, man, and just realizing that oil is still leaking from some of those carriers is just insane. Just think about, and it's just a beautiful terrain, right?
Another fan question here. One of our fans wants to know, what was it like playing at Lambeau Field in front of those fans, and with all the green, yellow, and the cheese?
What was it like? Man, second to none, man. They are gung ho. I'm talking about like 0 degrees outside. These guys and girls got the shirts off.
Yep.
You got the bikini girls going. They got Packers on their stomachs, and you got the big dudes, with the ACKERS, and it's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun. I think if you're a fan, it would be very difficult not to be intoxicated, because I think you have to be intoxicated just to endure some of those fans. because they're just so rowdy, you know. Yeah.
Jeremy?
Yeah, so let's take it to today. We've seen an entertaining NFL playoffs so far. You could say a little predictable, some very big upsets like the Packers and Cowboys game.
Mm.
Can you give us your thoughts on what you think is going to happen forward, NFC and AFC championship predictions and Super Bowl prediction?
Yeah, I think let's start with the AFC, shall we? I think Baltimore, Kansas City. You know what? I think I like Pat Mahomes. I like Lamar Jackson. I like Andy Reid, and I like Jim Harbaugh. I think I think that's going to be a tougher matchup. Whoever wins that game, I feel like, in my opinion, is going to win the Super Bowl. Um, 49ers and Detroit. We'll see. I think if Purdy plays the way he did against Detroit or in the Super Bowl, I'm not sure if they're gonna win. I think Purdy's still developing. I think he's still trying to find his identity in the playoff race. I think his team definitely rallied around him. You don't have Deebo Samuel. You got Christian McCaffrey too. So I think Kyle Shanahan really has to take him under the wing because I don't think he's found his X factor or his mojo to rally yet in the playoff. I think you got Pat Mahomes. I think Lamar Jackson's like getting ready to emerge too. But really, you got Pat Mahomes who has two. When it comes down to that crunch time, I think Pat Mahomes definitely knows how to rise, and Lamar hasn't really found that. Jared Goff, I'm not sure, has really found that. He has the team and the coach to do it, but he has to do it.
Yep.
And so I think they're gonna be fun games. I love the energy and the fight that Detroit has. I love the Niners and the physicality in which they bring, as well as I think the Ravens have a dominant defense, man. Watching them on film, I always bash the Bears. Like I was driving to Chicago, I was like, you guys are idiots letting go of Roquan Smith. You guys are idiots. Like you guys are trying to win a championship and you let go of one of the best players, and then all of a sudden he goes to the Ravens and now I think he made the Pro Bowl. Like, help me understand that. Like, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing over here? Like, you guys just giving away, franchise linebackers? I don't know. He could have been like the Brian Urlacher could have been, but you guys let him go. Like, what am I missing? Anyways, I think it's Lamar Jackson's time. If it's time. If not, Pat Mahomes is gonna take it. I don't think Brock Purdy's ready yet. I don't think Jared Goff is ready yet. As they're ascending, right? They're going up. But I think Pat Mahomes, man, he's gonna rise to the top. Andy Reid, he's definitely got a ton of experience. I think he knows how to keep a quarterback poised, and I think he's gonna do it again.
Yeah, speaking of the Chiefs, I had the opportunity to interview Pat Mahomes' father on the show, Pat
Okay.
Mahomes Sr., and he's an awesome person, awesome guy, and now I'm connected with the Hunt family, Tavia Hunt and Clark Hunt. Well, mainly Tavia because she sees my stuff all the time on social media, and
Okay.
they amazing people, and it's gonna be interesting to see. This is not, to be honest, this is not their best team that they had overall, because last year I feel like they were a better team last year than when they won the Super Bowl, and they still find ways to win. And my question is to you: Have you been part of teams where the teams are not that talented, but you still find ways to win? You've been part of that team in your career, right? Before.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's been times where, right, when 06, we were the youngest team and we're going up against some, we're the underdogs, and we don't have the most talented team. 2010, we were counted out. We're the 6th seed. We we weren't the most talented team. The only people that know that we're capable of doing it was us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and sometimes that's a good thing to have. You know, being the underdog. You know, I think you have a lot less. You have nothing to lose at that point. So I mean, who's to say that? And whose opinion is that?
Yeah.
Again, that goes back to my undrafted like mentality. Like, whose opinion? Not everybody's opinion is a reality.
Yeah.
I think that's something to definitely hold on to, because I'm not gonna lie to you, man. There's been so much opinion in the national media, regional media, the newspapers, ESPN, that will give an opinion. But then the question is, does that make it a reality? Well, who's to say it does?
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say that you're worthy and you're not? So I think a lot of times, let it play out between the white lines.
Yeah.
And again, that goes to my underdog mentality, which will always be, which I love.
Yeah.
And because I've always been matched up against the first round, second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round draft pick. You know what I'm saying? They always like slated me like number 5 on the depth chart. But then somehow, when it comes to like crunch time, like you're in like the 2-3 slot. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, who cares what the opinion is? You as a team, you can control your destiny as far as you want to go. You know, and I think right, wrong, or different, if you look good on paper or not. Let's take for example, the Lakers. They have 5 Hall of Famers. What was it? Karl Malone, Gary Payton, Kobe, Shaq, and I forget who else. And they didn't.
Kareem? No, not Kareem. No. Kareem, no. Was it Kareem? No.
No, not Kareem. It
Um,
was it was it was Karl Malone,
Yeah.
Gary Payton. I think it was Shaq. Was it Shaq?
Jack Kobe.
But they have 5. Either way, they have 5 Hall of Famers, and
Yeah.
they did not come away with the NBA championship. And they looked amazing on paper, but they still didn't win. So you gotta ask yourself why.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's the best team, not necessarily the best talent out there. So I think a lot of times, yes, my opinion is my opinion, but that's only because I've seen the proof in the pudding in that. You know what I'm saying? Does it work the other way? Sure, it work. You know, you can have some talented teams that win too as well. But what I've seen is usually the most gelled, most resilient team that comes through in the clutch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I kind of have a two-part question. I want to know, what current quarterback would you love to intercept if you were playing today? And what are some defensive backs that you enjoy watching the most right now?
Quarterback I would love to intercept.
A lot of good options.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely have to pick Mahomes.
Yep.
I'm trying to think anybody else. I think Lamar.
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and then I have to say Russ.
How about your former teammate?
Who, A-Rod?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've been there. Been there. I think there's one more. I think there's one. J Love.
Jordan Love. Okay.
Yeah. 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 And some of the defensive backs out there, I really like. I really like that Xavier. Like,
Oh,
what is it?
on the
Xavier Boat.
Dolphins? On the Dolphins?
Yeah,
Game
yeah,
and
like
hour.
Jalen Ramsey.
Oh, Ramsey. Yep.
Yeah, was it Janarius Sneed for Kansas City? Yeah, there aren't many. There aren't many that stand out. Um, but yeah, I think those are just a few that I would definitely admire. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so talk about your overall journey and what's it been like for you just to play the game that you love, play in the NFL, get work your ass off hard every day during practices in high school, college, doing everything you can to make your goal happen, and you made it happen. And let's talk about what's it like now being in this moment, playing a long time in the NFL and winning a Super Bowl and playing, and then after getting more opportunities in a different league. But just talk about what's like being in this moment right now.
Definitely just a blessing just to share my story. You know, I think one of the goals I always try to share, or one of the goals I always try to make a point of is to let my story, just like a lot of stories when I read some of the books that I read, because I love reading, I love educating myself, and just opening up a business and being an entrepreneur now. Um, there can be ups and downs in that as well. And so, but when I read some books and I read some of the stories of other people,
Yeah.
of their trials and tribulations and their ups and downs and how they figured it out eventually, just sticking to the process, even though regardless of what situation they're in, they eventually figured it out and eventually started ascending because you stay the course, and it's okay to pivot at times. And sometimes you read about that. And so I think those stories really give people a lot of hope versus this is what I did. This is what I did. This is what you should do because it worked for me. I feel like a lot of times, and I tell my kids that too. Instead of telling them what to do, I'll maybe give them like a short, condensed story to kind of get my point across. And we'll talk about it. And like, okay, do you understand the story? What's the moral of the concept? And and we'll talk about that. And so a lot of times that resonates with people, with a lot of people, than not.
Well,
Can you take us through the day of the Super Bowl, but more of the behind the scenes stuff? So I want to hear about the pregame, whatever happened in the pregame, and then take us through the postgame, and then all the way up through your parade.
Shoot, man.
Anything that you can remember.
Yeah, the pregame. Man, the pregame. I think I was actually pretty calm. I was pretty chill, in pregame. Um, I think, but right up into that first play of the game, there was a lot of anxiety, because you feel prepared, and then all of a sudden, like it sinks in, like this is the game. It's not just any game anymore, right? It's not like a playoff game, NFC Championship. It's not the wild card, not the 16th game. You know what I'm saying? That maybe gets you to playoffs. This is it. This is it. So I think, like a lot of games, I had to get that first hit out the way. And once I got that first hit out the way, I was like, okay, everything started to calm down. Play the game, right? Understanding all the work, all the work that you did, kind of play into that game because you've over prepared, you've practiced, you feel good, you've done all the things to make your body feel good. You got your family there to support you. I got to meet some cool celebrities right up before the game. Got to meet Dion, Marshall Falk, a couple actors, and that was pretty cool. Because you just don't expect it. I mean, as you're focused on the game, and so win the Super Bowl, you see the confetti, tears, emotions, and you're just kind of just riding this wave of emotion because you finally reach your pinnacle. You finally reach from all the sleepless nights, of all the early morning 5 a.m. mornings, all the film sessions where you can barely peel your eyes open because you watch so much film, your eyes are getting ready to just pop out and just hit the floor, and you finally reach the pinnacle and you're able to, send some of the older guys out on the high note, Donald Driver, Chad Clifton, Charles Woodson, the guys who really been pleading, to kind of put a stamp on their NFL career to help them along the way. And this makes you feel good, man, that it wasn't in vain, that you can check the box. You can say that you accomplished a dream that is attainable, which I feel like a lot of people would lose hope because the odds are like what 0.01% of accomplishing. And so yeah, there's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of surrealness. There's a lot of walking on cloud, and up into even when we finished, man, we were sitting in and we went to a nightclub after the game, and I felt like I couldn't even enjoy the nightclub. We were as teammates, we were just talking about the football game because that's how fast it went. And I was like, man, do you remember this, man? Yeah, I got elbows square in the nuts on that play. I was like, really, man? I didn't even know, right? So there's so many things that happen, but it happened like the split second that you're not able to process. And so at that moment at the nightclub, we weren't worried about partying. We were just talking about the football game because we got a chance to talk about it and kind of process some of those feelings and some of those thought patterns. So we burn the candle on both ends of the night. We hop on a plane like 6 a.m. in the morning, come back to Green Bay. So we're going on basically no sleep. And we come back and there's the parade, man. We got our cameras out. We get the Packer fans, the tunnel. And it's just all you see is it's just like an ocean of green and gold, man. Because man, they knew it. They knew it, and I think half the city had to come to the airport because it doesn't happen often, right? So clearly, just an amazing opportunity to see the community of Green Bay come together. Like literally outside their houses. And what's funny though, guys, is that when the Bucs won NBA championship, I don't think anybody left their house. No. And I was like, and I was sitting in my house, and the Bucs won the championship. Nobody left their house. Nobody was like outside, like, oh, we're gonna drive to Milwaukee. We're gonna see the Bucs. No, let the Packers win the Super Bowl. Let's go, Grandma, at the airport. Let's go. So that's the level of love and passion, and just. They bleed green and gold, man, and I can't even describe the words of the passion that the Packer Nation has that follows the Green Bay Packers. And I'm very fortunate and very blessed. Packer fans are second to none. That's all I can say.
Speaking of the Bucs, they just hired Doc Rivers as their new head coach.
Did they?
Yeah. Yeah, they finally hired him after Adrian Griffin after 43 games, and they're still 30-13. They're still a dangerous team, but it's just I guess they made a change because of the defensive purposes, and Doc Rivers was their number one target, and then they got it done. So now Doc Rivers back coaching with the Bucs, which is crazy to see. But yeah, so that's been interesting to see now where that team goes. But for you, Jarrett, what was special about this team, your career is the players you played with, especially the 2010 season, you got to win the Super Bowl with like Charles Woodson, one of the best to ever do it in the NFL. You learned a lot from Charles Woodson, I'm sure. And for you, how special was that for you just to be part of that with Charles Woodson, one of the best in my opinion? What was that like, just being his teammate, Charles Woodson?
Pretty cool. Not gonna lie. I mean, to see a guy. So just take a second. Put yourself in my shoes for a second. A guy goes to Utah State, gets undrafted, does everything he can to prove himself worthy that he can play within the white lines. And then you get a guy wins the national championship, is the Heisman, the number 2 overall pick?
Mhm.
Wait, wins the Heisman as a defensive player.
So,
Ever. And then can you see how like the different paradigms come together? But I think there was one thing that there was a common denominator. I think the one thing was that we will both do anything to win. And I think that's where we kind of came together. Because I don't think we always saw eye to eye a lot of times, because he came a different route and I came a different route. I came from just like, I'm gonna prove to you why I could play. He already knew he could play.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times our egos kind of collided a little bit, but for the most part, we knew we both wanted to win, and I think that's where we came together, understanding that we were willing to do whatever it took to come together and win. And when he spoke, he didn't speak much, but we all listened. And I think that's something that you always take, and you'll take with you throughout life. And he's an older brother to me. He is a big brother. I feel like I can always reach out to him. Now that we're a little bit older in this, being always a forever mend of that Packer brotherhood. I think he just wanted some brothers like him to do whatever it took to get a championship. And he didn't really care what that looked like. He just wanted that mentality.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we definitely shared a respect for. When he broke down his collarbone, it didn't really process at the moment. But I think I knew he was like, man, he knew he couldn't play anymore because he had a broken collarbone. But I knew in the back of his mind, he was like, dang, this is probably like one of the few times I can get back here to this game. I hope these guys can finish it out for me. You know what I'm saying? And so we looked at each other, and he was like, man, you got this. Because I think I had sprained my wrist. And so it was pretty painful. It was about 10 out of 10. And he asked about it. I was like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I felt like I couldn't let him down at that moment. You know what I'm saying? Because he's sitting there in a sling. He's already in his sweats.
Wow.
And so we knew we had that connection of like, let's go get it done. And so we went and got it done, man.
Yeah. We got a couple more things here before we let you go, and just talk about the so actually we have a fan question here. We'll take one more fan question. They want to know your thoughts on the coaching carousel that's happening right now in the NFL. A lot of things going on with all the coaching movement, so they want to get your thoughts on that.
For the Packers or just overall?
Overall.
Well, you got Pete Carroll, you got Bill Belichick. I hope he's able to find a home. Mike McCarthy, I feel like he's solid. I think he's just got to he's got to make either some big moves or some small moves, to get what he needs done. I think the Tennessee Titans, I think that's always, that's a tough spot to play. Great fans there. I think they let go of Joe Barry today.
Yeah.
I think it's a coordinator. I hope that's the best move for us. Sitting 31st in the rush and 8th in the pass. I don't think that's acceptable long term, being that we drafted I don't know how many first rounders on defense. But we'll say this, the coaching world is a loyalty department. If you're loyal, they will find you a job. It doesn't matter about the scheme or whatnot. They get paid handsomely to go out there and find a way to win. But what I do know, if you're able to be loyal in that coaching room, ultimately they'll sign you on to another organization. Understanding that relocation is a thing in the coaching world, being that it's a coaching carousel. But I think if you maintain that level of loyalty, you can definitely find yourself with another organization. Your biggest hope is to find stability and to be able to find yourself in a long tenured contract as a coach. And that's the nature of the beast. That's the nature of the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, so throughout the course of the playoffs, we've seen some very cold games. You're getting snowstorms in Buffalo before their games, record temperatures in the Kansas City Miami game, and you've played in Green Bay for your whole career. Tell us about what it was like dealing with the winters up there.
Yeah. There's some cold games out there. But, being a Packer, you definitely use that as an asset, not a liability. And I'll tell you why, because that ball gets cold, your feet get cold, and if you're able to tolerate that, if you're able to endure that discomfort for a 3-hour period of time, more times than not, you'll have a lot of success. And, a lot of teams aren't like the Arizonas, the Dallas, the Miamis, the Arizonas, San Francisco's. Okay, we took 0-5. But I think that for the most part that's in San Francisco. But if you take the Lambeau, I think those odds definitely shake up a little bit. So it definitely becomes, like I said, an asset. That's just something that you gotta get used to. You gotta toughen up, Buttercup. Yeah.
Yeah, so one final thing here, just to tell our fan, talk about what was the experience like playing in the CFL.
It was different, man. I'm blessed for the opportunity. It was very different. It was definitely some growing pains. Just the movements and everything. You got so many different components. You have the Canadian football rule. You can only have like 7 Canadians on the field. You have to maintain 7 Canadians on the football field. The rest can be American. It was different because you hear the national anthem before each game, and all of a sudden you hear the Canadian anthem. I think that was a little strange. And then, it was a great experience. Never took it for granted. I'm very thankful for Nagel, the general manager over there, and it was a great experience. And I was able to check that off the box. I got to see some cool places: Montreal, got to see Saskatchewan, got to see Calgary,
Nice.
and some really cool, Canadian territory.
So there you have it, Super Bowl champion Jarrett Bush from the Green Bay Packers, former defensive back, cornerback, whatever you name it, wide receiver in high school. He did everything. He's a jack of all trades, I should say. But thanks for joining the show, Jarrett. It's great to know about you, your story. What a great career you had, and what a journey you had too. And thank you to our fans for tuning in and asking questions also. But Jarrett, we'll stay connected, and we'll have you back here on the show again eventually. And then we would love to have meet you in person one day too. But but keep up the great work. Enjoy the playoffs games coming up here this weekend, and thank you again for joining.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Appreciate you a lot. Thank you.